Today I will be summarizing Saphier's POL, or Principle of Learning, Keeping Students Open. Keeping students open and thinking through teacher responses to student answers. So the most important takeaway is the way teachers respond to student answers is more important than the questions themselves. How a teacher responds can make a classroom environment either more open or restrictive. The teacher will give verbal cues when they are responding to a student, like good job or why don't you elaborate, etc. Or their body language is also an indicator. Are they turning away from a student? Do they have open posture? Alternatively, are they exasperated? Or they look friendly or patient. What is your classroom climate is something Saphier talks about in this POL. Do students feel like they can open their mouths in class? Do they feel like they can take risks in the classroom? Teachers can do a lot of things to keep students open. Some critical expectations to send to students are, this is important, you can do it, and I won't give up on you. This is how you keep your classroom open. This is how you keep your students taking risks. If a student is not wanting to answer, if they're sullen, if they're silent, you can say, this is important for you to learn. If a student feels like they're failing, you can do it. I won't give up on you. That is better than simply not calling on that student or letting another student answer for them, which we'll discuss later in the presentation. So teachers give cues non-verbally and verbally every time they open their mouths when they're answering a student. If a student is silent or slow to think through a question, teachers need to think about how they're responding to this, both verbally and non-verbally. Some things that a teacher can do if a student is silent or slow to think through a question is give cues, refer to other students, or offer help. We know as teachers that class timing is only about 40 minutes if you're lucky, and you're getting through all of the lines and book checkouts. So when we're giving lessons and we call on a student who is slow to answer or silent, we need to remember that we do have time constraints, but we have to show patience within those time constraints. To exert your force to keep students open and not to restrict their thinking or risk-taking, I am doing a plagiarism example. In a 6th grade classroom, the teacher asks the student what they think plagiarism is. So the question is, what do you think plagiarism is? The student does not know the answer right away. Does the teacher use the strategies mentioned before, the giving cues, giving help, or asking another student to answer? One thing a teacher can do to keep a student open is deliver a prompt. Say the student partially answers the question, but not completely. Deliver the prompt. Is it okay to use someone else's writing to pass off as your own? Is it okay to write down the exact sentence in this book and say it is yours? Do you think it is fair to use another author's words and pass them off as your own? Another way to keep your classroom open is by holding students accountable. I think teachers should be friendly and warm and open, but letting a student stay silent isn't going to help them learn. So hold them accountable. Offer them help. Do you need me to say the question again or explain it better? Or, alternatively, call on another student, but not in a way that makes them feel stupid. You saying, you don't know this answer. I'm going to call on Bruce next to you isn't going to help this student learn. So maybe you can call on a student in a positive way. Or you can include the student who couldn't answer the question in that. Do you think your neighbor can help you answer this? Why don't we work in groups? Turn to your neighbor, etc. Or supply questions for what answers are right. If you call on a student and the student gets the question partially right, I think plagiarism is when you take credit, You can prompt with another question. Where do you take the credit from? Do you know who you take the credit from? Is it someone else's work that you're using?